What would you do if a cop pulled you over and your first move actually made the stop worse for you? If you shut off your engine too fast, you can create the exact suspicion the officer later writes down. And if you start moving before you get clear instructions, your own actions can help turn a simple stop into a bigger investigation. Before I reveal the exact words, hit subscribe so you can find this video again when you actually need it on the side of the road. Smash like right now, because this is the kind of information you never remember until the lights are already behind you. Let me show you exactly what you need to know before your next stop. You're gonna learn why turning off your engine on your own can be a bad move. You're gonna learn the one line that keeps your hands visible and your intentions clear. You're gonna learn how to ask before you reach for anything. And you're gonna learn the question that ends the stop once the officer's job is done. Most people have no idea the first 10 seconds matter this much, but they do. Your first move shapes the whole tone of the stop. Your first words shape the report. Your body language shapes whether the officer sees a routine driver or a possible threat. This is 100% legal, and if you know the right script, you stop guessing and start protecting yourself. Here's the reality. Most drivers get pulled over, panic, and start doing things fast. You kill the engine, you dig for your wallet, you open the glove box, you twist in your seat. You try to look helpful, but to an officer walking up in the dark, your helpful movement can look like hiding something, reaching for something, or getting ready to run. That's why this topic matters so much. You are not required to guess what the officer wants before the officer says it. You are required to follow lawful orders. That is a huge difference. If the officer wants your engine off, the officer can tell you. If the officer wants your hands where they can be seen, you should already be doing that. Your goal is not to impress the officer. Your goal is to stay calm, stay safe, and never create extra suspicion with your own movements. So the first tactic is simple. You do not shut off your engine automatically the second you stop. You wait with your hands visible, and you make the officer give a clear instruction if that is what the officer wants. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, my hands are visible. If you want the engine off, I will comply. Word for word, memorize that line. That line works because it does 3 things at once for you. First, it shows respect. You are not refusing. You are telling the officer you will follow instructions. Second, it keeps your hands where they can be seen instead of reaching toward your dash, your key, or your center console before the officer even gets to your window. Third, it creates a clean record. If the officer later says you were acting strange, your own words show the opposite. You were calm, you were clear, you were waiting for a direct command. Here's the trick they don't want you knowing. A lot of stop reports are built on tiny details. Driver made sudden movements. Driver reached toward the console. Driver appeared overly nervous. Those lines matter. They get repeated later in court. They get used to justify calling a dog, asking more questions, or pushing for consent to search. The less random movement you give them, the less story they have to build around you. Bad way. Most drivers say, hang on, I'm turning it off, and start reaching all over the dash. Then the officer writes that the driver made sudden movements and seemed nervous. Good way. Smart drivers say, officer, my hands are visible. If you want the engine off, I will comply. Then the officer hears calm words, sees calm hands, and the stop stays cleaner. I've analyzed over 200 body cam videos. The drivers who do best are not the loudest. They are not the smartest sounding. They are the calmest. They make the officer say what he wants. They do not guess. They do not rush. They do not create extra movement. Watch what happens when you do that. The officer has less to complain about, less to write down, and less room to say your actions raised concern. There is legal backup for this too. In Pennsylvania v. Mimms, the Supreme Court said an officer can order a driver out of the car during a lawful stop for safety reasons. In plain English, that means police can give certain clear safety commands during a stop. So if the officer wants your engine off, your window lower, or your body outside the car, the officer can say it. Your job is to follow clear lawful orders, not guess at hidden ones. That is why waiting for the instruction protects you. You are staying still until the officer tells you what to do next. Defense attorneys use this exact line in court because it shows you are calm, respectful, and ready to comply. Think you could stay this calm during a real stop? Let me know in the comments. Because the next move is where most drivers blow it without even realizing it. The second tactic is this. Before you touch your wallet, your glove box, your registration, or anything near your seat, you narrate your movement first. You make your motion predictable. You make your intention obvious. You never let the officer guess what your hand is doing. You look at the officer and say this. My license is in my wallet and my registration is in the glove box. Is it okay if I reach now? Those exact words are simple, polite, and powerful. They turn a risky movement into an approved movement. This matters because traffic stops are built on officer safety. That phrase gets used a lot, but here it means something very simple for you. The officer is walking up not knowing who you are, what is in your car, or what you might reach for. If you suddenly dive toward the glove box or center console, you are making the worst possible first impression. But if you ask first, you lower the temperature right away. You show your hands. You show your plan. You show that your movement has nothing to hide. Former police officers have confirmed this works. They say the scariest part of a stop is not the loud driver. It is the quiet driver whose hands disappear. So keep your hands visible and make every reach a spoken reach. That one habit protects you more than most people realize. Bad way, most drivers say it's in here somewhere and start digging through the glove box. Then the officer stiffens up, steps back, and starts treating your stop like a threat. Good way, smart drivers say, my license is in my wallet and my registration is in the glove box. Is it okay if I reach now? Then the officer knows exactly what your hand is doing and why. There is case law behind this one too. In Arizona v. Johnson, the Supreme Court again leaned hard on officer safety during traffic stops. In plain English, the court said officers can take extra safety steps during a lawful stop when they think danger may be present. That means your safest move is to avoid creating fear in the first place. When you narrate your reach, you reduce the chance that your normal movement gets turned into suspicious behavior later. Your words protect your movement protects your stop, and there is something else you need to understand here. You do not win a roadside stop by acting extra helpful. You win by being calm, predictable, and boring. If your goal is to look cooperative, this is how you do it, not with fast hands, not with nervous digging, with clear words and slow motions. That is the whole game. Now, the third tactic is where your rights really start to matter. Once the officer gets your documents, the questions often change. You may hear, where are you headed? Or, why didn't you turn your engine off? Or, you seem nervous. Is there something in the car I should know about? That is the moment many drivers talk themselves into trouble. Listen closely because this is critical. A routine stop for a traffic issue is supposed to stay tied to that traffic issue. But officers often use casual questions to grow the stop into something bigger. If you start explaining your whole night, your route, your passengers, your work bag, or why your engine was still on, you are giving the officer pieces to build a bigger story around you. Here's exactly what you say. I'd like to stay silent and handle the traffic matter. Short, clean, respectful. You are not yelling. You are not fighting. You are simply refusing to become your own witness. This matters because roadside questioning feels casual when it is not casual at all. If you say, I left the engine on because I was scared, the officer may write that you were panicked. If you say, I forgot, the officer may keep pushing to see what else you forgot. If you start talking fast, you may contradict yourself, and once your own words are in the report, you do not get to take them back. Bad way, most drivers say, I'm just coming from a friend's place and I didn't know what to do and there's nothing in the car. Then the officer hears nervous talking and starts digging for more. Good way, smart drivers say, I'd like to stay silent and handle the traffic matter. Then the stop stays focused on the reason you were pulled over. This comes straight from Supreme Court rulings. In Berkemer v. McCarty, the court explained that regular roadside questioning during a traffic stop is different from full custody. In plain English, that means officers can ask you questions on the roadside without first reading you your Miranda rights. That is exactly why you must protect yourself with your own mouth. If you keep talking, the officer will happily keep listening. Legal experts agree this is your strongest protection when the stop starts drifting away from the ticket and into an investigation. And once the officer thinks your answers are weak, the next question usually comes fast. You mind if I take a quick look in your car? That question sounds casual. It is not casual. It is a legal trap built on your consent. Here's exactly what you say. Officer, I do not consent to any searches. Word for word. That is your line. Say it calmly. Say it once. Say it clearly. If the officer asks again, repeat the same line again. Why does that line matter so much for you? Because if you say yes, even to look friendly, you can lose one of your biggest protections. Once you consent, the officer does not need to fight over the search nearly as much. You gave permission. And later in court, the government will point right back to your own words. Bad way. Most drivers say, sure, go ahead, I have nothing to hide. Then the officer gets a full green light to search and anything found becomes your problem. Good way, smart drivers say, officer, I do not consent to any searches. Then the officer has to find real legal grounds or move on. In Schneckloth v. Bustamonte, the Supreme Court said a consent search can be valid even if the driver did not know they could refuse. In plain English, that means nobody has to warn you that you can say no. You have to know it yourself. That is why your sentence matters. Your sentence is the wall, your sentence is the line. Watch what happens when you say it calmly. The officer now has a choice, either show real cause or stop fishing. Most people already clicked away. If you're still here, you're in the top 10% of drivers when it comes to protecting your rights. Drop a comment saying, I'm still here, because the next move is the one that actually ends the stop. The fourth tactic is what you say after the ticket, warning, or document check is done. A lot of stops should end right there, but many do not. The officer keeps chatting, keeps asking, keeps hovering. That extra time is where more drivers get trapped. Here's exactly what you say. Am I being detained or am I free to leave? That one question forces the stop into a clear lane. Either the officer has a legal reason to keep you or the officer should let you go. There is no middle lane where you just stand there and help the fishing expedition continue. This works because it puts the burden back where it belongs, not on you, on the officer. If the traffic business is over, the stop should be over too. If the officer wants more time, the officer needs a lawful reason. Your question makes that moment clear on the record. Bad way. Most drivers say, "So are we good?" and then keep standing there answering more questions. Then the stop stretches out and turns into something much bigger. Good way. Smart drivers say, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" Then the officer either states a lawful reason or the stop ends. The legal backup here is Rodriguez v. United States. In that case, the Supreme Court said police cannot extend a traffic stop beyond its traffic mission just to go investigate something unrelated without legal grounds. In plain English, the stop cannot turn into a fishing trip just because the officer feels like it. This is 100% legal. Your question is not rude. Your question is not suspicious. Your question is how you test whether the stop is still lawful. Watch what happens when you ask it with a calm voice and steady hands. The whole stop suddenly gets very simple. Let me show you exactly how the legal framework fits together so you never forget it. Mimms says the officer can give clear safety commands during a lawful stop. That is why you wait for instructions instead of guessing and moving around on your own. Schneckloth says your consent can make a search legal even if nobody told you that you could refuse. That is why you must say you do not consent. Rodriguez says the stop cannot be stretched out for unrelated investigating without proper grounds. That is why you ask if you are being detained or free to leave. Here's the reality. These cases are not random law school trivia. They map your whole stop from first contact to final release. Your job is simple. Stay still, speak clearly, give no free consent, end the stop when the legal reason is over. Now picture your next traffic stop so you can see the difference in real life. It is dark. You pull over. Your heart is racing. The wrong way starts immediately. You kill the engine before the officer reaches you. You bend down for your wallet. You open the glove box. You start explaining yourself before the officer says a word. The officer walks up already alert. He sees movement. He hears nervous talking. He asks where you are going. You keep answering. He asks to search. You say yes because you think that makes you look innocent. Then he keeps you there longer, searches your car, and writes every nervous detail into the report. Now here's the right way for you. You pull over safely, you keep your hands visible on the wheel, your engine stays on until the officer gives a clear instruction. When the officer gets to your window, you say, "Officer, my hands are visible. If you want the engine off, I will comply." Then the officer tells you what to do instead of guessing at your movement. If you need to reach, you say, "My license is in my wallet and my registration is in the glove box. Is it okay if I reach now?" If the officer starts asking side questions, you say, "I'd like to stay silent and handle the traffic matter." If a search request comes, you say, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." And once the ticket business is done, you ask, "Am I being detained or am I free to leave?" That second version feels less emotional, but it protects your rights far better. Your hands stay visible, your movement stays explained, your words stay short, your consent stays intact, and your stop stays tied to the law instead of drifting into a guessing game. Next week, I'm revealing what to say when cops claim they smell weed. Subscribe so you don't miss it because that line gets driver searched every single day. If you're not subscribed, you'll miss the one phrase that stops that trick cold. So remember the 4 big moves you just learned. First, don't shut off your engine automatically. Make the officer give the instruction while your hands stay visible. Second, narrate every reach before you move. Third, keep your mouth short and never consent to a search. Fourth, once the traffic reason is done, ask if you are being detained or free to leave. Those 4 moves keep you calmer, cleaner, and harder to trap. Your goal is not to win an argument. Your goal is to avoid creating evidence against yourself with your own hands and your own words. Hit subscribe so you catch the next video on the smell of weed trick. Smash that like button if this just saved you from a future roadside mistake. And drop a comment telling me which line you're going to memorize first. Stay safe out there.